Hey everybody, welcome to the Slam Nation on the New York Nerd Show. I am All That Pat, joined with my co-host, the one and only Lord Cash. How is it going today, my friend?
I'm probably doing better than some of our fellow superstars in the WWE, but other than that, everything's good.
You know, you say that, but in reality, this might be a fantastic opportunity for these guys to be able to do something even bigger in their careers. Now, if you're not sure, the past, not even 7 days, the past 5 days have been such an amazing opportunity for news stories to break because we have had multiple WWE legends getting released, either getting released or putting their name back out into the field. A lot of people are talking about AEW, but we're going to be discussing today basically what is in the future. What are some thoughts of who do you think has the biggest potential outside of the WWE? Now, if you're not aware, there have been four guys that we're going to be talking about today. That being CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Bray Wyatt, and the Nature Boy Ric Flair. These four WWE superstars have become very well known in their WWE careers, and now they're being tossed about saying, like, what are they going to do next? Will they go to AEW? Will they go to Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, New Japan? Or will they get re-signed by WWE, just like Samoa Joe did about a month ago? A lot of things are possible for this. So who do you think has the biggest potential outside of the WWE? Let us know in the chat. It'd be wonderful to talk to you. But, Lord Cash, let's get the ball rolling. What are we going to talk about tonight? Like, who do you feel has one of the biggest upsides of those four? Who do you think ultimately you look forward to talking about most?
I think Ric Flair is going to be going to like Fernando's Backyard Wrestling. I think that's where he's going to end up.
Could be. It could be. Fernando's. I haven't heard of Fernando's. Must be a good guy.
He's got a big following.
Oh, okay. All right.
Bull, I swear.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So of these four, well, restate your question one more time.
So of the four, right? Again, Ric Flair, Bray Wyatt, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan. Who do you think of those four has the biggest potential to really move the needle, so to speak, and actually cause a huge ripple in the world of professional wrestling outside of the WWE? Do you see any of them making a big difference?
There's one that really, I think can make the biggest wave if the rumors are in fact true.
Right. And that's just it. Like, we don't know the exacts, right? We don't know why these guys were released. We don't know why these guys. I mean, again, CM Punk is completely withdrawn from this, right? He's been out of the WWE and the wrestling landscape for the better part of 8 years.
Well, that's the big splash. If CM Punk truly has been signed by AEW, and within 2 weeks going to be making his debut over there when they go to Chicago, then that is the biggest splash. That is the biggest wave, because someone who's been out of the game for 8 years, if he comes back to the game, that's the splash. You know,
Absolutely.
Daniel Bryan, he left SmackDown when his contract was over with his fight against Roman Reigns a couple months ago, like 2 months ago, give or take. Bray Wyatt hasn't been seen since WrestleMania. Yep. And then Ric Flair, he's been on Raw doing some sort of angle within the last year, whether it be with Lacey Evans or kind of being that ring person, giving, Charlotte, his daughter, kind of, a thorn in her side or whatever. So right. Of those three, they have been on TV in a ring in some form or capacity this year alone.
Oh, absolutely. No, everybody's fresh other than, like I said, CM Punk, but he's already, just by the rumors, has already put himself back into the limelight very easily, which is something that says about his popularity overall. But let's dive into it. Let's give each of these four guys, like their equal attention and have a full discussion. And like Liberty Legend, just put in there about his dislike for like some of the legends like Ric Flair basically getting put in, into the wrestling world at the expense of some of the newer talent. we're going to talk about what Ric Flair may still have to offer in the world of professional wrestling a little bit. So let's go right down the line. So let's start with Bray Wyatt, the Fiend. He's definitely had quite a few different. I'll bring him back around. So again, we'll talk about the Fiend first, right? Bray Wyatt definitely established himself over the past. I think he started with WWE back in 2012, 2013 as a member of the Wyatt family themselves. And then he's been able to evolve, whether it be like I said, the Cape Fear kind of gimmick with the Hawaiian shirt. He then also went to be the Eater of Worlds, as a team with Matt Hardy, and he had the long dreads. And then he became the split personality character as like the Mr. Rogers, Playhouse guy. And then the ridiculous, evil clown that was unstoppable. And then most recently, before he left the company, he was set on fire. So he's had quite the ability to, evolve himself. Even we talked the other night, actually, last week about Nexus. He was in there as Husky Harris.
Yeah, I was getting ready to
creative guy.
That they debuted the Nexus during the original run of NXT when it was the next set of wrestlers to try out, and that was back in 2011. So
right.
the performer that we now know as Bray Wyatt, he's been attached to the WWE in some form or capacity since 2011.
No, exactly. Yes, he's got quite a career already.
And in 2010, he probably was doing his tryouts for NXT. So yeah,
no longer a rookie for sure, I think is what you're trying to come across with.
Well, yeah, basically just he's been around for quite some time.
And he's not a guy that has like your standard wrestler gimmick, right? He is definitely the truest form of a gimmick. And you got to think about where would that fit best. I mean, I would be very surprised if a guy like Bray Wyatt with his creativity would just go to like a Ring of Honor, a company that is very well known for just their in-ring action. He's never been no one has ever mistaken him for a legendary technician.
Right.
He's always been like a brawler, relying mostly on his charisma and the it factor. So I wouldn't imagine he'd end up in a company like Ring of Honor. Now, the biggest company right now in the world next to WWE is, without question, AEW. Do you think that there would be room for a gimmick right now, like a Bray Wyatt, in a company like AEW?
Absolutely. With everything that they've got going on over there, I feel like there's a dude walking around with a dinosaur mask. Come on, like there's all sorts. You've got you've already got one guy, Darby, that's got half his face painted, a la Sting a little bit, but you've got, there's gimmicks over there. It's not if it's true. What was wrestling without gimmicks? It's not just so and so name. There's gimmicks over there. Essentially, so yeah, totally. Bray Wyatt would fit over there. And in fact, I was looking to see if I actually saved the tweet for it, but he's already tweeted that things are on the horizon.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing with the AEW is, the behind the scenes with Bray Wyatt has been pretty well established. That's used a few questioning his sexual after. Yeah, it would be, as Liberty Legend is saying, it would be kind of curious, what kind of gimmick that Bray Wyatt might bring to a new company, because the Fiend is copyrighted, I believe, by WWE. So the thing with Bray Wyatt is that the real person, Wyatt Rotundo, I believe his name is, basically, Wyndham. Thank you. Now I'm getting his gimmick name in there. He was very good friends with Brody Lee, in real life, And when Brody passed away, unfortunately, last year, it hit him very hard. I don't know the guy. I don't. But, I mean, it's been, like I said, widely reported on the internet, which, at some point, there's smoke, there's fire. So that took a big toll on him, personally and emotionally. In AEW, they had Brody Lee's gimmick. His stable is still there, the Dark Order, right? There's a possibility that he could come in as the leader of the Dark Order. I've heard some people kind of, making predictions on that could happen. Should he go to AEW if that happened? I almost think the Dark Order stable right now is doing very well on their own without a leader, strangely enough. They kind of like came to each other as a family. If you've been following that. But do you guys think, though, that he would actually fit in as a possible, replacement? And I say that in the most polite way of saying it, to Brody Lee as the leader of the Dark Order. He's got a weird gimmick, that's for sure, or there's a possibility of that.
Well, the fact that Bray Wyatt's character was a leader of a Dark Order, if you will, I think Brody would not be insulted. He would actually, I think he would have great respect knowing that Bray Wyatt coming over and creating a new persona, whether it's wrestling under his real name, that he would take care of this faction that he built and that was the leader of over in AEW. I don't feel that they would be disrespect. In fact, I think that's the best honor and respectfulness by having someone that he was extremely close to, that essentially was a brother to him, take over the order that he kind of set in motion.
Well, another question too, and I agree with you on that. I think that's a way to look at it for sure. Another thing to think about, everybody, is that right now AEW, at least in the rumor mill, is absorbing all these former professional wrestlers for WWE and other companies. And you're right. But sometimes Liberty Legends bring up a point that like doing that, right? Him becoming the Dark Order leader is like so obvious, right? There's a way of looking at it as to whether or not it's lazy or just really the right thing. Sometimes the most predictable outcomes in a match or in a storyline, they're predictable because it kind of works, right? But it's something to think about the long run, because AEW is absorbing a lot of talent. Now, they do have a couple shows coming up. They are establishing another 1 hour show on Friday nights after SmackDown, 10 p.m. called Rampage. They're going to need more stuff, guys for that. They have a very long established roster that only sees their matches on the YouTube shows, like AEW Dark and AEW Dark Aftermath, I think it's what it's called. Lot of opportunities for their guys, but I don't want to see any kind of like backlash of like them saying, what about their AEW homegrown talent? They're getting overshadowed by this influx of WWE guys. With that in mind, why not Impact? Impact's kind of, they're seeing a little bit of resurgence. They could definitely also use a guy like Bray Wyatt. And Impact was the biggest company in the world that actually pushed the idea of these cinematic matches that were all the rage last year. Like with the Hardy Boys, they had their final deletion matches, and that's where Matt Hardy had that whole woken or broken gimmick. I mean, the reality is Bray Wyatt's character does lend itself, better or for worse, to those really off-the-wall gimmick matches and scenic matches. He might have a great opportunity over there to get good money, creative freedom, and he could be the one to lift that company up. What are your thoughts on that?
So I have long since watched Impact Wrestling. I was not even aware that it was still around as much as televised. Yeah. So I here's the thing. Regardless of where he does go, and I'm sure he's going to go somewhere because this is his life, this is his passion, he's going to do great things.
Yeah.
The things that I've seen and watched from the FCW days when they were kind of going through that, like I can't remember what the specials were, but like there was like a whole FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling, that was released with like the last year on the WWE Network, and it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And some of the stuff they were saying about the character of Bray Wyatt, the things that he had done to just, he could talk. He is a spectacular specimen on the mic. He can talk, he can create. So no matter where he goes, he's going to come up with some sort of idea, some sort of gimmick that he's going to present himself in a completely new light or something similar, but he's going to be amazing at it. It's going to work, it's going to fit, and he's going to be successful.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest, takeaway, Lord Cash. He's going to be successful no matter where he goes. The most recent guy, as we move forward, right? The most recent guy that actually got released actually happened yesterday afternoon, and that was the Nature Boy Ric Flair. He was released in there's a lot of speculation as to why he was released, whether or not he had an expensive contract or that he may have asked to be released because he had a very controversial storyline earlier this year with Lacey Evans in Charlotte, where they were feuding with each other, but the whole insinuendo was that Ric Flair was having a relationship with her, even though she's married. But then they had to keep going back and retconning all of their different storyline lines, so to speak, and kind of say, oh, that's not working. By the way, no, we're not dating. I'm just trying to learn from the best, whatever. It was a mess. And it's funny to say that storyline was saved by Lacey getting pregnant.
Right.
Because otherwise we would have had to go through it all. But yeah, Flair was released yesterday. And, Ric Flair is almost 80. He's in his, I don't know the exacts. I'm not sure. Do you know how old he is exactly? He's definitely not a spring chicken, for sure.
Yeah, I think unless the spring was 1842.
Yeah. He's a legend, though. He's, I've actually met him a couple times. I actually worked with him at a hockey game, believe it or not. And I think you met him too back in the 90s, right?
So yeah, so he's 72 years old, according to the old Wikipedia, stuff. But I was working at SeaWorld doing concessions over by the Sea Lion and Otter Stadium, and I'm just doing my thing at night, whatever. And the next thing I know, this blonde-haired guy comes, orders a bunch of Shamu bars, popcorns, frozen lemonades, whatever. I don't even remember his order. But I was just like, oh, okay. Let me, yes, okay, yeah. And I just kind of just took the order. I wouldn't even dare. My woo was broken, definitely. So I would have loved to have, said things of, dude, I appreciate you. I respect you. You're awesome. Thank you for the stuff. But the fact of the matter is, I knew of him, but I didn't know him from a lot of the wrestling matches. I just, it's kind of, you say someone down the street, have you ever heard of Hulk Hogan? Oh yeah, I've heard of him. Can you tell me any matches? No. So I knew who Ric Flair was. I at least could recognize him. I can pull him up in a lineup, but I just didn't know a lot of his matches to say, oh my gosh, thank you. Your contribution to the world of wrestling has changed my life. Because at that time, it hadn't.
Right. And Lord Cash, that's the thing, right? I'm glad that you said that, because Liberty Legend mentioned earlier about not wanting to see somebody like Ric Flair going to AEW because it kind of puts a focus too much on legends instead of the future. I agree and I disagree. The reality is AEW is a growing company. Ric Flair, like you just said, though, is a name that everybody knows.
Yeah.
When I did the hockey game with him years ago, no matter what, you see his name, everybody goes, woo! You say Ric Flair, guy in the bus will say, woo! and all Tony Khan
I think Lady Cash just went woo.
There you go. All you got to do is get this guy on your company payroll, sign him for a 3-month deal, finish up the calendar year. You have Flair do a couple different press events, just have him wear an AEW t-shirt.
Right.
You see that face on there, everybody is going to say, oh my God, that's Ric Flair, isn't it? What is he doing? Oh, I guess he represents a company that's doing wrestling. He could be a needle mover just by, he's not going to wrestle. No. He's not going to, he'll appear on the show a couple times. But the reality is just getting him out there to have his name attached to this company, so much value.
I've got 2 words for you.
DX?
No. Exactly. Arn Anderson. Did I freeze you? Dang it, I did it again. I broke the internet. Why do I keep doing this? So the reason why I say that, because Arn Anderson is over in AEW, and, you know, Ric Flair being part of the 4 Horsemen, have that little bit of reunion. Have them. Here's something that I don't know has ever been done. Have multiple legends be your managers.
Yeah.
And you know, it's called, have a group call it Half a Horse. You know, the half of an apocalypse or something. I don't know, because you've got 2 out of the 4 horsemen.
But they have 3 out of the 4. Because I think I got cut for a second on my internet. There's Tully Blanchard, who is one of the managers for the MJF stable.
Right.
They're managed by Tully Blanchard. Basically, all you need is Ole Anderson, and then you have the 4 Horsemen original. So that's I agree with you completely. That's the whole thing. Even for that pop of having all 3 of them come out, I mean, come on.
You play that, because I don't know if they can play the 4 Horsemen's music. I don't know if it's probably copyrighted to WWE at this point.
They could play Flair's,
but yeah,
Flair's music is it's public property. Yeah.
So you do, but I'm just saying you play some sort of music and have him come on out while you've got, you know, these 2 guys in the ring. Is Arn Anderson still with Cody Rhodes, right?
Yes, he is.
And then so you said Tony is with MJF's team.
Yeah, Tully is part of the Pinnacle. So you know, just because AEW, like you kind of started to say, Brian, or Lord Cash, I'm sorry to cut you off, but they've been doing a fantastic job using legends, to be completely honest with you. You got Vicky Guerrero that is with Nyla Rose, right?
Yes.
You've got Chavo Guerrero that's now with Andrade. You know, you've got, like we just mentioned, Tully is with the Pinnacle. Cody Rhodes has Arn Anderson. And the list does keep on going. Jake the Snake was with Lance Archer.
Right. Well, even then, he's not to the level of Ric Flair, but Matt Hardy. You know, he's over there, got his little group that he's together. He's probably the youngest of the quote unquote legends who've been around for 30 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Jericho too. He brought over the Inner Circle.
Yeah. So
they know what they're doing.
Exactly. And I think that is the whole point of legends. You know, yes, they may have gone around the storyline a little bit on the creepy side, but pairing Lacey with Ric Flair to quote unquote learn from the dirtiest player of the game, that's what it's all about. You've got these people that have been in the industry from the 60s and 70s, you know, 80s, you know, time frame when wrestling was really becoming what it, you know, the foundation of what it is today. Why not absorb that information? They have to have stories and methods and just, you know, way of doing things that if they don't pass it on, it's going to die.
Agreed. Like that Lacey Evans story, like you're saying, I thought it was great until they alluded to them dating.
Right.
But yeah, just like exactly, who wouldn't want to be the dirtiest player in the game? Learn from the best in real life and in storyline. I mean, Mark Henry and Big Show, or, you know, Paul White, them going over there, same thing. They have a lot to talk to the big guys. You know, even Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross on the mic. You know, they have so many guys over there they can learn from. It's actually a pretty exciting time in the world of professional wrestling because, again, AEW is making some massive moves towards becoming a real viable number 2. And quite honestly, Tony Khan's dad, he's worth more money than Vince is. I mean, he owns an NFL team. He has nothing but money to be able to invest in this. So I think it's a really good possibility that we could see all four of these guys over there sooner rather than later. I do think that, like I said, a guy like Ric Flair might be better suited for a very short-term contract, just to kind of like come in, pop some ratings. But his age too, not to sound crass.
You don't want to have him on a long-term age because you never know what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get a 20-year contract.
Exactly.
But we wish him the best. That's not because we're not trying to be like sick. Now
for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think it's the right thing to do, and I would say yes to that. With that being said, a nice transition comes to the guy, strangely enough, who is now getting lost in the shuffle of all this amazing bulk of news. Daniel Bryan, the real Bryan Danielson. He basically left the company. He had the storyline earlier in this summer, late spring. He lost to Roman Reigns after a feud, and we heard that he might be leaving for real, and it sounds like he actually has. Again, we haven't heard anything officially for him other than like very strong rumors that he is also headed to AEW, with the biggest idea coming that he's going to be debuting in Queens, New York at their big stadium show. It's coming up in September 13th, I believe it is. He's being tapped to be going on to AEW there. My God, yeah, another technician, another guy that is incredibly over with the crowd. Great connections to the wrestling fan. I mean, if you ask me, does he belong in AEW? I already used this joke a second ago, but it is definitely a simply yes. God, it was like a perfect fit. Lord Cash, are you on the same page as me? What are your thoughts on Daniel Bryan possibly going to AEW?
Absolutely. He has the not to use the word cult following, but essentially, he does. The yes movement is alive. It is doing quite well. Regardless of even if he's in the WWE or not, you still hear the yes chants going on and off. And again, another set of music that's public domain.
Yeah, Fight or Fight of the Valkyries, but either way, yeah.
So again, you can use his music right on over there. I almost think that's people should ask for public domain music. One, because I'm sure it costs the company less money. But then if they ever do leave, they can go to another company and still have their music kick in.
I think it's very smart, because that is a reality. Is that you get that over, you're ready to go no matter you are. It's the same thing with their name, right? It's like it depends. You got to think about what name are you going to pick as your wrestling name. Like, are you going to get the rights to keep it? Daniel Bryan, his real name is Bryan Danielson. They just did a flip. So I think enough people will realize that's who it is.
Yeah.
Now, AEW would be a great fit for him. And I alluded to earlier how their company is starting to get very heavy. But again, they have a reason for it. They're making it, the company's getting very refined. If you think about that, though, there might be, no one's talking about this, but he made his name in Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen. Let's be realistic. He's going to AEW. But I want to kind of explore all the options, right? You do have Japan. You do have Ring of Honor. You do have Impact. There's a possibility he may consider going to Ring of Honor, kind of do a full circle in his career. Just throwing that out there. Now, are you familiar with Ring of Honor all that much?
A little bit, but for the sake of argument, I'm just going to say no.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, basically him and CM Punk and Joe, actually, Samoa Joe, they all kind of got their starts out in that area. It hasn't been doing a whole heck of a lot, partially because of the pandemic, for sure. But, Ring of Honor is still out there. He does have some, a lot of connections to there. But the reality is, I think Daniel Bryan will end up in AEW. And part of the reason is they kind of make the jokes on the show about AEW has opened the forbidden door. A reference to the fact that they don't ignore other companies. They have a working relationship with Impact. They also have a working relationship with AAA out in Mexico. And the biggest one that might be is thirst quenching as possible for Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson is they have a working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Right.
That gives this guy who loves the wrestling business, he loves to have matches and perform, that will allow him to basically be able to compete with like more than 50% of the wrestling world, that is currently out there. He's expanded, he's hit most of the roster and WWE at this point, to be real. So that might be really enticing to this guy to be able to basically come to AEW, call them his home, but then also be able to say, I'm going to Japan for 2 months. And they say, all right, cool. See you in the new year.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that per se. I know that there have been, I want to say I've seen stuff that someone on AEW has like the Impact, like was that Omega that had like the Impact title?
Yeah, Kenny Omega has the TNA Impact World Championship. John Moxley had the IWGP United States Championship. He did lose it. Yeah, and he lost it to Lance Archer recently. That belt from New Japan Pro Wrestling is being defended in AEW because, again, that working relationship. And also Kenny Omega also has the AAA World Heavyweight Championship, too. That's like one of those belts he's always carrying to the ring. So he has so much going on. The company does. And I think that's the reality is WWE is such a juggernaut. The only way to compete or maybe even take them down is to basically team up with them.
Enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've seen some of the episodes of AEW.
Yep.
And I saw when, and I'm blanking on his name right now, when he came in about a year ago with Taz, and he had the FTW title.
So
what is that?
All right, so the
sidebar.
No, it's not a sidebar because it does kind of like have some ties, right? The FTW World Championship. All I'm gonna say, we can't say the name of the championship. It's something the world.
Gotcha.
It was a title that Taz created for himself back in the old Extreme Championship Wrestling ECW days. It basically was a reference to Taz being like, counterculture, a tough guy doesn't need to, relay and the establishment. He didn't want a world title. He basically said, F the world title.
Gotcha.
So he made his own belt. So that in itself, Lord Cash, though, is a connection to ECW in all reality.
Right.
WWE owns that licensee, but they don't own that belt. So they're still making that count because, Brian Cage defended it against Ricky Starks, and now he's got that belt. So they're making it something. I don't know. I love AEW. I just do. I'm not like, biased, but it's a good product. It's enjoyable. Even terrible. I think it was terrible last Thursday, but they did have the Nick Gage, Chris Jericho hardcore match. Served the purpose for the storyline, by the way. But that is a direct connection for GCW, which is a hardcore. It's called Game Changer Wrestling. It's an indie company based out of New Jersey. Again, by having Nick Gage come in for that match, especially on a hot weekend that just happened prior. We'll talk about that some other time. But the bottom line is, again, AEW making those connections in the world. It's got to be super enticing to a guy like Daniel Bryan, he's got to be close to the end of his career. I mean, he's not old actually. But let's say if he is, getting there at the end, man, go out with a bang. Hit up everything, gather up all the pieces that you want from memories and accomplishments. WWE's not going to allow you to do that. He already hit his ceiling at WWE. There's no room for him there.
Right. So I think the real question here is Matt Cardona going to defend the internet title?
Hey, he's still got it. I mean, I encourage you, Lord Cash, and anybody else watching right now, take a look at what Matt Cardona's been doing for Game Changer Wrestling and Nick Gage. Matt Cardona is doing big things for his career. He's actually currently contracted by Impact Wrestling.
Yep.
He is wrestling down there with his fiancee, Chelsea Green, actually. But he's not hardcore at all. He just isn't. So he did this like really surprise run-in at one of the Game Changer Wrestling shows, and he attacked Nick Gage, who was their champion at the time. The crowd went nuts because they hate the character of Zack Ryder, because he's as goofy and soft as you can get. For these bloodthirsty fans who was like, get the hell out of here. They could have sent Hornswoggle in, basically. And last weekend, or the weekend before, whatever it was, he came in and he took the belt. He actually beat Nick Gage. And if you watch that footage, you seen the footage?
Oh, just like they just start chucking everything into that ring. Everything. I think the ring ended up inside the ring.
and that's one of the bigger moments in wrestling, in a sense of, like, you know, like Hulk Hogan.
Well, I say it reminded me when I'm trying to think if it was there was someone who won a title in WWF, and they just like they just got littered. I don't know if it was Mick Foley or someone, and like just the crowd erupted, and just they were just barraged of stuff, popcorn, drinks, were just like hurled into the ring. Is that ringing any bells?
Oh, 100%. The biggest moment that ever happened with is when the NWO pretty much got formed. When Hulk Hogan at Bash of the Beach 96 in WCW, he basically surprise came out as the third man for the New World Order. He turned on everybody.
Was that the poke?
No, that was a couple years after that. That got a lot of crap too. But that was one of the big ones, you know. And you know, like you only count like maybe 3-4 moments in wrestling history where the crowd got that hot, you know, against the person that they would do that. Yeah. And Matt Cardona did it. And that Nick Gage thing came right off the heels of that. So you have all these things that, again, WWE would never acknowledge another company.
Yeah.
But AEW is doing it, and it is bringing a lot of new fans in. Again, neither one of us like that Nick Gage thing as far as the match with Jericho.
Right. The hardcore, I call it bag, blood and guts.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You know, but the bottom line is it got the world talking.
Oh, absolutely. It did what it was supposed to do. I just have to, you know, do this little number.
Yeah.
Is it over yet? Okay.
Yeah.
You know?
And I watch all the EW anyway. I just really like it. But there's some nights when I'm tired, I want to watch it the next day. Honestly, that knowing that Nick Gage match was coming up, I'm like, I just want to see what they're going to do. You know, so I made sure to watch it live. But yeah, we kind of got off topic here, but that's okay.
It's all, you know, coming around.
It is. And I think that at this point, we've talked about Flair, we've talked about Bray Wyatt, we've talked about Daniel Bryan, but without question, the one guy that is as much signed as humanly possible without saying it is the voice of the voiceless. It is the best in the world. It is the guy from Chicago, where they're going to be going to in about 2 weeks. It is the one and only CM Punk.
Absolutely.
You know, CM Punk has been out of the wrestling landscape for, I guess, like we said earlier, the better part of 10 years in all reality. And, you know, this is a guy that was very much, you know, frustrated with his last run in WWE. They gave him the belt. They gave him a lot of push, but he was never truly given the establishment and the idea that he was the actual champion. Of the times that he was the world champion, I don't think he was ever in the main event. He wasn't ever the last match on the card, maybe once. And remember, that was always a sticking point whenever you heard him talk outside of the WWE, basically. That was one of his biggest complaints. It was always somebody else that was perceived to be bigger than him. And again, you get the belt, you'd like to get some kind of respect in that fashion.
Yeah.
But he left. He left in kind of like, you know, controversial circumstances. People have been clamoring for this guy to come back forever. And, you know, there was a point when I heard that he might be coming back. It's kind of like, you know, are the fans really as invested in this guy still? I think this past week proved that they definitely are. They fans, I think, call it, they hijacked Monday Night Raw last night with a lot of CM Punk, chants. And it's funny because his name has come to represent not just him, but it's kind of like it's a chant that tells the WWE that we don't like this.
Right.
Because his name stands for being the voice of the voiceless. And it actually happens in real life. People don't like Goldberg coming out. They're going to drown out Goldberg with CM Punk. Not Goldberg sucks. They're going to say CM Punk instead.
Right.
Now, you did see the announcement for the Chicago show last week on AEW Dynamite, right?
I did.
So what were your thoughts as far as like, what was your takeaway when they made that announcement and the reaction?
I thought it was okay. And again, it's. I feel that the only reason why they would push for the show per se is if something was truly going to happen. You know, if nothing happens in Chicago, people are going to be so angry.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things where, like, if AEW doesn't have anything set up, they're done. It's just gonna be like, wait, what?
You know, because you've got the whole "we're gonna be in Chicago," and then of course Darby Allin doing his whole little promo spiel that he'll fight anybody, even if you are the best in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, you have to. If you do not deliver on something, if they don't have to face to face, as long as his feet cross the threshold and is seen on camera, that literally all that has to happen. If you just see someone brush by and you see the Cobra, the Cobra logo or the Pepsi logo, all you need, and people are going to go bananas.
Can you? And what's great, we talked about earlier about theme songs, right? The Cult of Personality theme song is not owned by WWE.
Yeah, it's a legit song.
Yeah, they paid to license it. So Tony Khan has already proven that he'll do that, right? John Moxley has Wild Thing. The Best Friends have, I don't remember what the name of their song is, Orange Cassidy's song, but they have it's a 90s song. Then you also have, oh my God, I'm drawing a complete blank, but Jungle Boy. He has the Tarzan song.
Right.
And there's a few others. So Jericho's got a licensed song, but he's saying it.
I wonder if they actually pay him so that way they can use it.
It'd be kind of funny. I mean, there's been guys that have gotten double dipped on their paychecks before.
Why not?
All right. And like I said earlier, Tony Khan's family is definitely not, they're not hurting.
Right.
They have the money and they're going to invest, right? That's one of the problems, like say Impact Wrestling, they weren't willing or able to go the full distance. AEW can go the distance. They're already proving it. So yeah, I cannot wait to hear that, like the opening riff of Cult of Personality. Yeah, the roof will come off, as the cliche would go.
Oh yeah, that's definitely they're gonna burn it down.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. The thing is, it's like I don't know if people are thinking about this or if this is even relevant anymore. So CM Punk, at least at one point, was best friends with Colt Cabana, who is in AEW as one of the guys as part of the Dark Order. So they used to work together on his podcast back in the day. Colt is actually he's actually the innovator of the wrestling podcast, to be fair. He had one of the first ones ever out there. It's called The Art of Wrestling. So when the whole problems went down with WWE and CM Punk, Colt Cabana was pretty vocal about things, and he kind of got stuck in the middle of defending his friend, but also like wanting to know all the stories, all the information. And from what I remember at the time, again, it's like 10 years ago at this point, crazy. But like the whole thing is like, I don't know if they ever like made up, so to speak. And business is business. Money talks. I'm sure they'll be fine. But there might be a little bit of that, like, that's already had to be done to kind of like, hey, he does have a little bit of a beef, possibly, with a former friend of his in that new company. But again, time hopefully heals all wounds. But just thinking about that, as we're getting ready for today's show, I wonder if that will be any sort of impact on, the whole entrance into the company for CM Punk. But like you alluded to, like I mentioned, I'm not even putting up Ring of Honor or Impact, because if this guy's coming back to wrestling, he's coming back for the biggest company that's out there, really, at this point. He's coming to the company that can really stick it to WWE and Vince McMahon. I don't feel that he's let them, off the hook. He did make that comeback for Fox when they did that SmackDown after show a couple years ago.
Yeah,
but it wasn't a WWE thing. It was just him. He wanted to work for Fox, get some money.
Yeah,
that was surprising in itself, though. But yeah, I think this is like the biggest acquisition AEW could possibly make, because you're bringing in a cult icon who has not been in the wrestling business for, again, almost 10 years. He will bring in so many fans that have left.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I mean, how many fans have just said, I'm done watching it. I mean, I've come close many times. It's like, I remember when Bray Wyatt lost the title to Goldberg in Saudi Arabia, I literally went to cancel my WWE Network account. I was so annoyed at how stupid that was. But I'm like, I want to watch wrestling, but it was still like, I didn't, like, we changed, let's be real, behind the curtain, so to speak, although I think we said it. Lord Cash and I changed the format of the show almost entirely because we're just sick of WWE. It's so boring covering half of their shows, particularly Raw. So we want to try something a little different. You have people out there that won't even turn on USA Network because they're so bored. They're going to watch AEW to see CM Punk debut. And what's next for CM Punk? I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly, I definitely could see a title in his future.
Right.
That's going to happen. I have no doubt of that. Whether or not they're going to start him off slow with the TNT title, or if they're just going to jump right on into the world title picture. What would be interesting is if he does beat the current FTW whatever, and it's renamed that F the WWE.
FTWWE, yeah.
Well, the W stands for WWE.
Well, it's true, right? You don't need to get like too, I guess too deep on the obviousness, right?
Well, again, I could see AEW and CM Punk trying to pull that angle, because he's got this. I mean, it's like that W stands for another, doesn't stand for the world. It stands for an organization or something. I'm sure there's, CM Punk is much, much better on the mic than I am. He can articulate certain things and come up with ideas. Again, I'm literally having this idea right now on camera. So I'm sure he can articulate it much better than I can. But yeah, I could see them trying to finagle something of that caliber.
It's not something that I would think, but at the same time, who knows, right? And what's exciting about CM Punk going to AEW is that there's very few guys in that company that he has history with.
Yeah.
Like, I would imagine he probably wrestled Christian and Matt Hardy. If I really think about it, I'm sure I could find something. But there's so many fresh faces and talents. AEW seems to let the guys go on the mic. They don't cut them off. They don't give much in the way of scripts, which is a complaint for some guys that can definitely talk.
Right.
A lot of creative freedom is over there. And again, I mean, the biggest thing that you could, have a problem with is, again, if he takes a spot from somebody else. But the reality is, maybe Lord Cash, almost against what you're saying, you might not need a title.
Very true.
Just getting out there and having a feud with a guy like Darby Allin, right? Or having a feud with a guy like Kenny Omega, or Kenny's got the title, but, he can go off with anybody. He did fight Jericho, by the way, for the belt. Actually, beat him for it. But
he can go out there and feud with anybody and put them over. Again, he is almost a legend in his own right.
Yeah.
He's got that following. I almost said cult following, but again, that's not the right personality I wanted to go with. But if you put him with anybody, it's going to go over quite well. Yeah. And that new person, quote unquote, that may be having a hard time getting a good push, sticking him with CM Punk. It's going to happen. They're going to want to watch, Jungle Boy, go up against CM Punk or someone else that may not have the good push.
Well, yeah. And that's the whole thing you said at the very beginning of the show, right? Is the way AEW uses legends to get other people over. CM Punk, like you said, he'll get other guys over, as needed. And what's funny is, they've used Paul White as an announcer too.
Yeah.
And Mark Henry's going to be an announcer on Rampage. I would love to actually hear CM Punk as an announcer too, like on some other shows. Did you ever watch the terrible NXT season 3 with the women?
I feel like I did.
So I put this out to you and everybody else. I don't even know if it's on Peacock. Watch WWE season 3 of NXT. It's the women's version. That show fell off the rails so quick. And it has nothing to do with women. It has everything to do with how they booked it.
Right.
And I bring it up because after like the second or third episode, it got taken off the TV and they put it just on the WWE website.
I do remember that.
And CM Punk, I don't know the full story, but he came out in his wrestling gear one day and just had a suit coat on, and he sat down and started doing commentary. And he stayed. He was freaking hilarious. That was where the beginning of the Michael Cole heel character came from, was on that season. Reason I pointed out, it's just because it shows that CM Punk can do everything. He can do commentary. He can definitely do promos. He could definitely wrestle. He might even be able to make a pizza for Nick Gage to slice up. I don't know. But the bottom line is, the guy's got charisma. The guy's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of fans that were lapsed fans. He's going to be bringing into that company. That is definitely the worst kept secret in wrestling, though, is that he's coming to AEW. And like you mentioned, if he doesn't, my God, AEW is going to have some really angry fans. There it is.
There's the
my God,
getting married to Goldust.
Oh man,
I remember that. Caitlyn and Kelly, Naomi, AJ goes one-on-one with Oksana.
What an example of what the show really was. If you scroll up, where the thumbnail was whoever that is in the hamburger helper costume.
I think that might be Naomi.
Could be. Somebody who was in that season, by the way, was AJ Lee.
Yeah.
And AJ Lee is married to CM Punk. Do we see AJ Lee join him as a member of the women's division? Because the women's division, which was very hard at first for that company to pull off, is getting pretty damn strong now too.
Yeah, they're doing quite well for themselves over there.
And yeah, AJ has definitely got a lot of fan base, and hey, the duo might be on there too, so who knows? Very exciting times though in the world of professional wrestling, where while it's sad that there are a lot of guys and girls being let go at this time, but because we have a really hot industry right now, whether it be AEW, Impact, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor, NWA, GCW. I'm not just naming like acronyms of random like delivery services or anything like that. These are like actual wrestling companies that are having success right now. There are alternatives to working for Vince.
Yeah.
So, hey, if any of these guys decide to retire or take a step away, cool. But there's a lot of opportunity for us wrestling fans. I think it's an exciting time. I just hope that we can keep safe and we don't have an occurrence where people are getting sick again, more than we already have, unfortunately, and that we don't go to a place we can't have fans again.
Right.
Because, sadly, Matt Hardy debuted in an empty arena, as did Brody Lee. Having, any of these four guys debut in an empty arena would be as not deadly tragic as possible, if that makes sense. You have CM Punk, his music hits, and there's no one there.
You're piping in, ambient sound. It's not like literally when WWE had their first, that Friday when, they went on air and you heard, which I called it, Vince McMahon was the very first person to come out.
Yeah.
And, basically like, where the hell have you been? And you heard the crowd. And I'm like, I seriously, goosebumps, and I got tears.
When Edge comes out, that show, it was insane, that reaction he got.
It just because we haven't had that in a year and a half. Like, I'm not counting WrestleMania because it was its own thing.
Yeah.
But to have that now on a weekly basis, I pulled the images from SmackDown and Raw this week, just because normal habit, and you never know when you're going to need it. But the fact that they, it's always been from this time, it's been pictures of the performers and whatnot.
Yep.
I'm now getting, and I'm going to pull it here, providing it actually lets me do it.
And as you're pulling it up, it is kind of funny to think that the entire time we've been doing Slam Nation was the Thunderdome, era.
Yeah. But basically, there's actually stock footage now of pictures of just the WWE universe. It's the crowd react, their stuff now. So for me, that's just weird to see.
Yeah.
Like literally, there is just pictures of the universe. There's no wrestler whatsoever.
And that just tells you, like, it says it all in one picture, that like wrestling needs its fans, and AEW is servicing them. For sure, they're putting on a product that people actually want to see. WWE is definitely getting fans. They're definitely getting people to come back out, but it's more or less, I think, out of a just they want to get out of the house. They want to see wrestling. It's not because they really enjoy the overall aspect of the product. But again, there's people out there. I mean, I watch it out of habit too. I do. I want to enjoy it. Every week I go in to watch wrestling, I'll look for the good things. And it's not that it's terrible. It's just AEW is more interesting to me because every week it's not like reruns. It's like I'm not going to get a ton of rematches every week. I'm not going to get a booking decision or a storyline or a character that I feel insults my intelligence. Yes, you have your Orange Cassidys. Yes, you do have Luchasaurus, who can go in the ring, but, it's got stupid gimmicks to it. It's just, to me, it's different.
And that's the thing.
That's why I don't think that I don't think Bray Wyatt, he might not fit there. Because his character doesn't make sense. His character is pretty dumb on a surface level. But
Bray Wyatt as the Eater of Worlds, yes. Bray Wyatt of the Funhouse, maybe. The Fiend, nah.
Yeah.
But again, because like there was something saying, where like it was the Bray Wyatt family or whatever. It's like the Wyndham, family or something of that nature was the tweet that he sent out, and I can't find it now. I thought I saved it, but I can't find it.
That wasn't that supernatural when it first started. He was just a cult leader. That's all it is.
Right. Well, again, it evolved from the Wyatt family, into when he went away, then became, which again, I absolutely loved his Funhouse persona.
Yeah,
I wish they left it at that, or almost on par with how Finn Balor has the Demon King. Which I don't even know if he does that anymore.
No, he doesn't. But I mean, he was never evil. It was just kind of like that was his game day paint. He's just kind of like, all right, if I put that on, I'm gonna mess you up.
Well, again, it's the alter ego, so to speak. That if they played the Fiend like the Demon King, then you only got him on special occasions.
Yeah,
he would have been the one to show up at WrestleMania to fight The Undertaker.
Right.
Because he meant business. He's got to, go deep to pull out this persona, this character to end things. So
I think the only problem they had with the Fiend character work got a little ridiculous was like with the supernatural aspects. And like basically, I think they jumped the shark, so to speak. If I'm using that phrase properly, I'm not positive. But when they had the Hell in a Cell with Seth Rollins, and he kicked out of Seth's finish 19 times, that's stupid. Like, because that literally makes wrestling not matter. When they did that, it's just kind of like, okay, why does he even have a finish?
Right.
Just because you put on a Halloween mask you should not be able to kick out of a guy's finish anymore, because at that point, Goldberg spearing him once made no sense.
Absolutely, because that was like what the curb stomp, right? That he like busted out a bunch of them.
Yeah, and that's a move that Seth has put people out with.
Yeah.
So like I would have been okay. Yeah, I mean, like I thought I got bought into it. I thought it was kind of fun to watch, and it was entertaining. But I don't know if they could pull that off in an AEW though, because like again, it goes a little too far.
Right.
For that company.
Yeah, I don't know if they have anything like that within AEW. That's got that supernatural, juju next to it. So, but
the closest thing was Matt Hardy. He came back with the woken or broken character, but they left it pretty quick, and I think it was because they recognized it didn't fit with the company, because now they made him as big money Matt Hardy, and he's been doing that for a lot longer.
Yeah, I think if he comes in as a cult leader of sorts, basically kind of doing the Wyatt family gimmick, it's going to work.
Yes, it would. Yeah,
as long as they don't have a rocking chair that goes by itself, it'll be fine.
Maybe Lily will get released next. That was the stupidest thing I've seen in a long time. I rewound it. Yeah, like, oh my God, stop.
Yeah.
And Eva's gonna pin Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam clean, I bet you. But
we will find out.
Yeah. Well, another thing we'll find out is what's going on the rest of the week. We have a lot of shows going on New York Nerd Show.
We do. So today is Tuesday, which of course that means we're doing Slam Nation Wrestling. But tomorrow is Wednesday, in case you're not familiar with calendar workings. That's the game room where we play a video game and talk about it on some level. Thursday is I Stream, You Stream, where we're going to be talking about something streaming on a channel, maybe HBO Max, maybe Disney Plus, Netflix. Who knows? We're going to talk about
Jungle Cruise sooner than later. Maybe that's on Thursday. It all depends.
Exactly. Friday is Funko Royalty, dealing with Funko Pops. Saturday is Mail Call Mail Time, where we get things in the mail. We'll show you what's in the box. Sunday is Call the Wild, where we go out, find stuff, and bring it back and show you what's in the bag. Monday is Crazy Card Collecting, where we show off all those retro trading cards, open up packs of stuff, and just let you see all the good nostalgia stuff that's from the 90s, 80s, whatever we find. Early 2000s, who knows? And, of course, that brings us right back to Tuesday, where Slam Nation Wrestling, where All That Pat and myself, Lord Cash, we talk wrestling stuff.
Yes, yes.
We do ask that you like and subscribe to the New York Nerd Show, whether that is on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Try for the hat trick and do all three. Why not? Go crazy. Go wild. And, of course, if you like what you see, give us the thumbs up. Like us. Spread the word of the nerd. Tell your family and friends about us. Because, again, we like to be loved in return. And we will love you as well.
We will.
And, of course, if this is your first time joining us, we have curated over 200 videos. I'm going to have to find out if we've gotten to the 225 yet. I'm just saying.
We might. We got a lot.
We could be getting pretty close there. But, yeah, we have well over 200 videos that we've done. With all these shows that we've got under our belt, it's just go watch them. There's whole bunches of stuff. We've done reviews on all of the Disney Plus Marvel stuff, WandaVision, the Loki, the Falcon the Winter Soldier, a couple movies here and there, wrestling stuff. We've got all sorts of things. Video games. All That Pat has a nice collection of video games. So a lot of retro stuff that we got to play and just talk over. It's lots of fun.
Sure is. And even if you've watched like those old, like you said, like the Disney stuff, watch our reviews still, because Lord Cash, he definitely educates you on those shows. Yeah, he takes a deep, deep dive.
Well, excellent. Well, we do want to say thank you for joining us here tonight. I think I think my watch says it's wrap up time.
Yes, indeed.
So what needs to be said to get us out of here, All That Pat?
Mecca lecca hi, mecca hiney ho.
Say that backwards, and that says goodbye. You're a friend.
Yes, something like that. Adios, everybody.
Bye-bye now.